a transmission from the edge of the night sky above the Galactic Council's capital station was filled with the slow drift of ships, glowing like silver fish in an endless black sea. Inside the grand chamber, alien delegates from hundreds of worlds argued, their voices echoing across the marble-like walls. They were discussing a small, unimportant signal, intercepted on the outer rim of known space. The signal was only 10 words long, but it made the translators pause. It said, "You have one chance. Stop now, or we burn it all." Some laughed, some called it a childish prank. Others whispered, because the transmission code, it matched something impossible. It came from Earth. For years, Earth had been silent, shut off from the galaxy, ignored, underestimated, forgotten. No one had seen a human ship in decades, and the few who remembered them described them as fragile, outdated, and weak. But a signature like that could not be faked easily. The Council security chief recommended sending a patrol to investigate. The Emperor's representative agreed, but only to show the humans that their threats were worthless. 3 ships were sent, fast, well-armed, and confident. They entered the system where the signal had originated. They never came back. No distress call, no wreckage, no survivors. It was as if they had been erased from existence. The Council tried to hide this fact, but whispers began to spread through the military channels. Some said the ships had been destroyed by a weapon too advanced to understand. Others claimed they had been swallowed by something alive. The rumors made people uneasy. It was the first time in centuries that anyone had spoken about humans with fear. On the colony world of Virel 9, an old merchant named Thrake remembered. The last time he saw a human fleet, they didn't fight like us. He told a curious young officer in a quiet bar. They didn't fight to win a battle. They fought to make sure their enemy never stood back up. The officer laughed, thinking it was an old spacer's story. But Thrake didn't laugh. He only looked out the window at the night sky, his eyes reflecting stars. Back at the Council, the Emperor's representative demanded action. "We will not be threatened by a dead world," he said. The decision was made to send a small Imperial cruiser to approach Earth's last known defense line. The cruiser captain was confident, too confident. He sent his crew into high spirits, mocking the idea that humans could be dangerous. Hours later, the ship sent one final report. The transmission was scrambled, but a single phrase was clear: "They're already here." After that, nothing. The Council tried to recover the cruiser's black box, but their retrieval drone melted on contact with the wreckage. Sensors detected strange energy readings patterns not seen before. The science division suggested the readings could be human technology, but more powerful than anything in the current galaxy. It was then the Emperor realized something. This was not a warning from a weak enemy. It was a promise from a predator. In a dark conference room deep within the station, a private meeting was held. The high commanders gathered, speaking in low voices. "They cannot have this kind of power." One said, "They are only human." Another replied, but the security chief shook his head. "They are human," he said. "That is the problem." Far from the Council, in the cold void of space, a single massive shadow drifted silently. Its surface was black, absorbing light, making it almost invisible. If one looked closely, they would see hundreds of weapon ports, dormant but ready. This was not a battleship in the sense the galaxy knew. It was something far older. Its name, written in fading white letters along its hull, was Ashbringer. Inside the bridge, a human captain stood with arms folded. His eyes were cold, his voice steady. "Has the message been received?" he asked. "Yes, sir," his first officer replied. "And their answer?" "They sent scouts." "None returned." The captain nodded slowly. "Then we proceed. Ash Protocol is now active." The ship moved without sound, without warning, deeper into enemy space, its engines barely visible, its heat signature masked. It was a ghost in the dark. And somewhere, far ahead, The Galactic Empire had no idea it was already too late. Asterisk, the Empire's mockery news of the missing patrol reached the Emperor's throne room within a day. The advisors tried to spin the story, blaming ion storms or pirate ambushes, but the truth was harder to bury. The crews were gone, and there was no sign of a fight. That silence carried more weight than any battle could. Still, the Empire did not believe. The Galactic News Network aired jokes about ghost humans and ancient Earth magic. Imperial officers laughed. In bars, placing bets on who would capture the first human prisoner, the Emperor himself called the warning a child's tantrum. He ordered a fleet exercise near Earth's old trade lanes, meant to show strength to the galaxy. It was a display of dominance. To Earth, it was an invitation. Admiral Catherine was given command of the task force. 7 heavy cruisers, 12 destroyers, and a support carrier. He had fought many wars and believed he had seen everything. When he reviewed Earth's last known military designs, he laughed. They still use railguns? Primitive, he told his officers. In his mind, the humans were a relic of a weaker age. One strike would crush them, and the Empire could move on. The fleet jumped into the Helios Rift, a dark stretch of space near the human frontier. No signals, no traffic, only the slow drift of ice and rock. Catherine ordered weapons to be powered up. The ships moved in tight formation, sensors scanning for any trace of human presence. The first sign came as a faint blip too small to be a ship, a single piece of debris tumbling slowly. When the destroyer Ravenclaw moved closer to investigate, its hull cameras showed the object. It was a helmet, a human helmet, burned black. Its visor cracked. As the crew stared, the object vanished from the screen. Not floated away, vanished. Before Catherine could react, the fleet's communications died. No warnings, no static, just silence. One by one, the ships lost power to their external sensors. Panic rippled through the crews, and then they saw it. A massive shadow sliding between the stars, blocking out the light. It had no visible engines, no running lights. It was as if a piece of space itself was moving. Catherine ordered all ships to fire, but their targeting systems refused to lock. Then a voice came over every open channel. Cold, calm human. You were warned. In an instant, the destroyer Ravenclaw folded in on itself, its metal shrieking at a sound no one in space should ever hear. Another cruiser simply split apart, as though invisible hands had pulled it. Open, no weapons were fired in return. The Empire's proud fleet was being erased without a shot exchanged. Catherine tried to order a retreat, but his command ship's engines were already offline. Emergency lights flickered as the bridge crew scrambled. Something was boarding them without breaching the hull. Without any airlocks opening, the air seemed to twist, and figures appeared. Humans in black armor, their faces hidden behind mirrored visors. They moved without sound, cutting through defenses like they weren't there. One officer screamed. Before being silenced by a single blow, Catherine reached for his weapon, but one of the humans spoke. "This is your only mercy." A blinding flash filled the room, and when it cleared, Catherine and his crew were gone. The next day, the Galactic News Network reported a minor navigational mishap in the Helios Rift. They claimed all ships had returned safely, but military channels told another story: thousands missing, ships lost without trace. Some junior officers began to doubt the official reports. A few even resigned quietly, unwilling to face whatever Earth was becoming. Back in the council chambers, the Emperor slammed his fist against the table. "They think they can frighten us with tricks and shadows," he growled. "They will learn the meaning of true fire." And so, the order was given full mobilization. The largest war fleet in Imperial history was to be assembled. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier the Empire could muster. Their goal was simple: find Earth and crush it to dust. But far from the glittering cities of the Empire, in the cold darkness where light rarely reached, The Ashbringer drifted silently. On its bridge, the human captain received a report. "The Empire is mobilizing," his first officer said. The captain's eyes narrowed. "Good," he replied. "Now we don't have to look for them." Asterisk. The first strike, the Imperial War Fleet, was not built for speed. It was built to intimidate. Rows of battlecruisers and carriers stretched across the void like a wall of steel. Every hull gleamed under the light of nearby stars, their insignias. Shining in gold and crimson, the Emperor believed the sight alone would break human courage. But the humans were not watching. They were already moving. On the outer edge of the Trevain sector, an Imperial relay station blinked once and then went dark. Minutes later, the same happened to another. Then another. Within 2 hours, 72 communication hubs were offline, the Empire's command. Channels dissolved into confusion. Messages were delayed, orders were lost, fleets began drifting without coordination. It was as if someone had cut the nerve system of a living body. That someone was Earth. The Ashbringer moved in complete silence. No emissions, no radio chatter, nothing to betray its position. Its weapons were idle, but its crew was not. Dozens of smaller craft launched into the black, each carrying a single mission: erase critical targets without leaving a trace. In the core of the ship, human AI systems calculated millions of attack patterns per second. Every move was precise, every strike planned to cause maximum chaos. On the Imperial mining world of Varnes 4, the morning began like any other. Workers loaded ore, children played in the market. Then the ground trembled. At first they thought it was an earthquake, but then the sky split open. From high orbit, something fired not explosives, not lasers, but a rod of solid tungsten. It fell silently at impossible speed. When it hit, the city vanished, replaced by a crater so deep the bottom was lost in shadow. There was no warning, no declaration. Only the sound of the wind screaming over burning stone. Similar strikes followed across 3 other worlds, each one chosen for its strategic value: shipyards, munitions plants, fuel depots. In less than a day, the Empire's supply network began to collapse. The Emperor called it coward's warfare, but his generals knew better. This was precision, extermination, and then came the second message. It appeared on every active comm channel, military or civilian. The voice was calm, measured, undeniably human. "This is mercy. Next time we erase you." Across the galaxy, civilians shivered. They had never heard humans speak like that before. Not as soldiers, not as politicians, but as executioners delivering a verdict. The Emperor ordered an immediate counterattack. Fleets were dispatched to suspected human positions. But every time they arrived, they found only empty space or worse wreckage. Drifting slowly, in one sector, an entire Imperial garrison station was found without a single living soul. The bodies were gone, the weapons gone. Only the cold halls remained. One officer whispered that the humans had taken the soldiers alive. Others prayed it was not true. In a dark war room on the Ashbringer, the human captain studied a holographic display of the Empire's weakening sectors. "They will panic," his first officer said. "They already are," the captain replied, his eyes never leaving the map. "We keep striking, but not enough to finish them." The officer frowned. "To make them suffer?" "To make them understand," the captain said. He tapped a single point on the map deep in Imperial territory. "That's where we burn next." The chosen target was Kethra Prime, the Empire's largest fuel hub. It floated above a gas giant, surrounded by rings of refineries and defense platforms. When the human fleet arrived, they did not announce themselves. Instead, they cut power to the system's starport, trapping every ship in dock. Then they deployed swarm drones, thousands of black spheres that moved like a living tide. The drones latched onto hulls, drilled through armor, and flooded ships with corrosive mist. Within minutes, the entire station was falling apart. Fuel tanks ruptured, igniting in massive firestorms visible from the gas giant's surface. The humans left before the explosion finished. From orbit, Kethra Prime looked like a dying sun. Its light faded as debris scattered into the void. The Empire had lost another vital artery. The captain of the Ashbringer watched the destruction on his bridge's viewport. "Message to the Emperor," he said quietly. The comm officer nodded. The words were simple. "This is still mercy." *Ash protocol activated in the war archives, buried deep under old Earth soil. There was a file sealed for almost a century. It was labeled Ash Protocol. Only a handful of human leaders had ever read it. It was not a battle plan. It was a promise. The protocol was born after the fall of New London. An alien coalition had once tried to wipe Earth from the stars. Millions died before the humans fought. Back when the war ended, humanity swore an oath. If any power threatened their existence again, they would not stop at victory. They would erase the enemy until nothing was left. Not cities, not fleets, not even history. On the bridge of the Ashbringer, the captain stood before his crew. His voice was steady, but his eyes carried the weight of that oath. "The Emperor thinks we are fighting a war," he said. "We are not fighting a war. We are ending one before it can begin again. Far away." The Imperial War Council gathered in the Emperor's private chamber. They were growing desperate. Fuel shortages, collapsing communications, and missing fleets had turned their grand plan into chaos. One general suggested negotiating. Another laughed, saying humans would not dare to face the full might of the Empire. But the Emperor had already made his decision. He would deploy the Crown Fleet 3 supercarrier groups, equipped with the most advanced weapons in the Empire's history. It would be the largest single movement of firepower in generations. The Crown Fleet emerged from hyperspace near the Draxus Gate. Their arrival was like a wall of suns appearing in the void. Their comms channels were full of confidence. "This ends today," one captain declared. For a few minutes, the galaxy believed it. Then space itself seemed to bend. Sensors screamed. Weapons shut down without warning. From the shadows beyond the gate, a distortion unfolded, a ripple that grew into a shape. The Ashbringer emerged, surrounded by a formation of black human warships. They were silent, cold, without any visible weaponry active. Yet every Imperial captain felt the same thing. They were prey, and the predator had arrived, the first salvo. From the humans was not a barrage of missiles or beams. It was a collapse. A targeted quantum detonation warped the space in front of the Crown Fleet. Ships were frozen in a loop of distorted time, their crews trapped in moments that never advanced. Some saw their sensor screens repeat the same second over and over. Others screamed as the loop fractured, tearing their hulls apart atom by atom. One Imperial carrier managed to fire before the loop closed around it. Its beam hit the Ashbringer's hull directly. The human ship didn't even flinch. Armor plates shimmered, absorbing the energy like water, soaking into sand. Then the Ashbringer answered. One single kinetic strike that ripped the carrier in half. Both pieces drifting into the void. Panic spread through the Crown Fleet. Some ships tried to flee, but the gate behind them was gone, literally erased from space. The rest turned to fight, unleashing every weapon they had. But the humans didn't fight like them. They didn't trade blows. They dismantled the enemy with cold precision. One by one, the Imperial ships winked out, their remains scattering like ash in the wind. In the Emperor's throne room, a messenger arrived breathless. "The Crown Fleet is gone," he whispered. The Emperor stood slowly, his hands tightening into fists. "Gone? Not destroyed." "Gone," the messenger said, his voice trembling. "There is nothing left to recover." Back on the Ashbringer, the crew moved with quiet efficiency. The captain looked over the battle report and nodded. "Activate the next phase," he ordered. The lights on the tactical map shifted. This was the heart of Ash Protocol, the move from targeted strikes to total system destruction. "Sir," His first officer asked, "Do we burn the core worlds?" The captain didn't answer immediately. He stared at the glowing icons representing the Empire's capital systems. Then his voice was calm. "All of them." The human fleet turned, engines burning silently. In the darkness of space, there was no sound to carry their approach, but to the Empire, their silence was the loudest warning they had ever heard. Asterisk. The burning of stars. The first system to fall was Velrith. It had 3 habitable worlds, each shining under the warmth of the yellow sun. The Empire believed no one would dare attack it. Too much trade, too many defenses. They were wrong. The Ashbringer. And its escort fleet appeared without warning. No grand speeches, no demands. They went straight for the heart of the system, its star. A small human ship, barely the size of an Imperial gunboat. Detached from formation, it carried something the galaxy had never seen. A stellar collapse device. It was not designed to explode. It was designed to end the sun. The device entered the star's corona and vanished. Minutes later, the light of Velrith's sun began to twist. It pulsed once, twice, then turned red. Temperatures soared on the planets. Oceans boiled, and the air turned to fire. Billions screamed, but no one could stop it. Within hours, the star began to eat itself, collapsing into a black wound in the sky. Word spread faster than the light could travel. World after world heard. The same story Earth had found a way to kill suns. In the Emperor's palace, panic turned to rage. He demanded retaliation, but his generals hesitated. For every fleet they sent to protect one system, 2 others burned. Human fleets moved. Like shadows, striking deep, disappearing before a counterattack could form. The second star to fall was Draction 5. Its sun was torn apart in a chain reaction, so bright it was seen from a dozen neighboring systems. The blast wave erased entire defense fleets in seconds. Imperial soldiers who had sworn to die for the Emperor found themselves begging for evacuation. Instead, the galaxy began to understand this was not a war to conquer territory. This was an execution. On neutral worlds, whispers grew louder. Merchants and smugglers spoke of human ships that could pass through any blockade. Some claimed the Ashbringer could vanish completely from sensors, even while firing. Others said they had seen human captains stand calmly as planets died behind them. No anger, no triumph, only cold purpose. In the council chambers, a desperate motion was raised. Negotiate with Earth before the core worlds fall, one delegate begged, but the Emperor refused. They will stop, he said, if we break them first. He still believed humans could be forced into peace through fear, but fear was already working, only not on humanity. Back in the void, the Ashbringer's crew prepared for their next target. The captain stood before the holomap. 3 stars in 3 days. He ordered. The crew did not flinch. No one questioned the order. They all knew the Othash protocol allowed no mercy once activated. The next system was Hadrian Prime, the jewel of the Empire's inner ring. It was home to the Emperor's cousin and half the Empire's cultural archives. When the human fleet arrived, they did not touch the planets first. They went for the sun. As the collapse device detonated, the Emperor himself watched from a palace. Observatory light years away, through live feeds, he saw the golden glow of Hadrian's sun twist into a red storm. He heard the static-ridden screams of the planetary governors before the feed cut to black. By now, even Imperial citizens who had once cheered the war began to curse it. Some fled to the farthest colonies, hoping the humans would ignore them. But rumors spread that Earth's war doctrine did not spare anyone loyal to the enemy. Every world under the Empire's banner was at risk. In a dimly lit strategy room aboard the Ashbringer, the captain's first officer looked at him and asked, "How far does this go?" The captain's voice was low, almost a whisper. "Until the maps are empty." That night, the human fleet vanished from Imperial trackers entirely. The Empire didn't know which star would die next, and that more than the destruction itself, tore at them, because for the first time in their proud history, the galaxy realized something. The humans weren't fighting to win. They were fighting to erase. Asterisk the Emperor's last gamble. The Emperor had lost fleets. He had lost worlds. He had even lost stars, but he refused to lose the Empire. Deep beneath the Imperial capital, there was a secret project known only to a handful of his most trusted advisors. It had taken a century to build. It was larger than moons, heavier than planets, a fortress designed not to defend, but to consume. Its name was Solaris Crown. The Solaris Crown was a weapon and a homeworld in one. It could move between systems. Fueled by reactors so massive, they glowed like captive suns inside its core. Its surface bristled with weapons planet-killer beams, gravity hammers, and shield arrays stronger than anything else in the galaxy. The Emperor believed it was the only thing capable of ending humanity's advance. When it emerged from hyperspace, even the void seemed to shrink away. Its shadow swallowed the light from the nearby star. Civilians who saw it whispered prayers. Soldiers who saw it straightened their backs. And far away, aboard the Ashbringer, the human captain finally smiled. The Solaris Crown sent its challenge across all frequencies. "This is the heart of the Empire," the Emperor's voice boomed. "If you wish to destroy us, you will have to kill a world," the Ashbringer did. Not reply, it simply moved forward. Behind it, the full human fleet emerged from the dark. Dozens of dreadnoughts, carriers, and cruisers formed a silent wall of steel. The Empire's sensors screamed. This was humanity's entire war force, gathered in one place. The first shot came from the Solaris Crown, a beam of pure energy wider. Then a city cut across the void. It slammed into the Ashbringer head-on. For a moment, the human flagship vanished in the glare. When the light faded, the Ashbringer was still there. Its armor glowed faintly red, but it was untouched. The second shot never came. The beam generators of the Solaris Crown began to flicker. Its targeting systems failed. Its shields dropped. Confusion spread across the Imperial command deck. How? The Emperor demanded. Then a voice came over his calm, human. "We've been inside your fortress since before it launched. Inside the Solaris Crown, deep in its maintenance levels. Human infiltration teams moved like shadows. They had slipped aboard months ago, hidden among stolen cargo shipments. Now they activated devices planted in the fortress's heart-small black cubes that bent space and drained power. Every reactor sputtered, every weapon faltered. The Emperor ordered emergency overrides. The overrides failed. He ordered the fleet to protect the fortress. The fleet never got close. The human dreadnoughts fired in perfect coordination, their kinetic slugs tearing through Imperial escorts as if they were made of glass. Then came the Ashbringer's turn. It unleashed a single strike, not at the fortress's weapons, but at its core. The impact rippled through the Solaris Crown like a heartbeat. For a moment, the entire fortress seemed to hold its breath. Then the light inside, it went out. From space, it was like watching a star die. The Solaris Crown began to fracture, its massive hull tearing open along fault lines. Atmosphere vented into the void in shimmering streams. Cities built on its surface crumbled. Sliding into the black, the Emperor refused to leave. If the fortress fell, he would fall with it, as the last pieces of the Solaris Crown drifted apart. The human fleet held position. There was no cheer, no celebration, only silence. On the Ashbringer's bridge, the captain gave a single order: prepare the final strike. Across the galaxy, the message spread. The Empire's last hope was gone. The core worlds were next, and everyone knew what that meant. Asterisk. Nothing but Ash, the capital of the Galactic Empire, had never known fear. It was a jewel of the stars, a planet-wide city glowing with towers of crystal and rivers of light. For 1,000 years, its sky had been clear. Its fleets invincible. That ended the moment the shadow fell. At first, People thought it was an eclipse, but then they looked up and saw no star, no moon. They saw hulls black, endless, layered like the plates of a living creature. The human fleet had arrived. Panic swept through the streets, sirens wailed, shuttles crammed with fleeing civilians filled the sky. The Emperor's last remaining fleet moved to intercept. It lasted less than an hour. The human ships tore through them with mechanical precision. Not in rage, not in haste, but like someone cleaning a blade before the final cut. From the balcony of his palace, the Emperor watched the Ashbringer descend through the clouds. It was so massive it blotted out the horizon. Every window shook. Every tower swayed under its silent approach. In the great chamber of the council, leaders begged for surrender, but there was no one left to negotiate with Earth. It stopped. Listening long ago, the first strike was not against the palace. It was against the heart of the planet itself. Human kinetic rods rained down in patterns, carving the crust like a surgeon's knife. The ground split, swallowing buildings whole. Fires spread in lines so straight they looked drawn by a ruler. Every strike was deliberate, calculated to end life without waste. The Emperor made his final broadcast to the galaxy. He stood proud, voice unshaken. "They will not break us," he said. A moment later, the roof above him peeled away like paper. The Ashbringer's main cannon fired once. When the dust cleared, there was no emperor, no throne, no palace. But the humans did not stop. They moved across the planet in waves. Entire city blocks vanished into ash. Oceans boiled. The air turned. Red with heat and smoke, the once bright world dimmed under its own burning sky. In orbit, other human ships turned their weapons on the moons. Within minutes, the moons shattered. Fragments fell like meteors into the dying planet below. Each impact sent fire across continents. Each fire fed the growing blackness. On the Ashbringer's bridge, the captain stood still. His officers watched the destruction unfold on silent screens. No one spoke until the planet's light began to fade. Then the captain said only one thing. "It's done." The human fleet turned away. They did not wait to see the last buildings collapse. They did not stay to hear the last screams. They left as they had arrived, silent, unstoppable. Behind them, the capital of the Empire was nothing but a dead, black world drifting in the dark. News spread like wildfire through what was left of the galaxy. Some called it justice. Others called it a crime beyond comprehension. But all agreed on one truth. Earth had not fought for victory. It had fought for finality in the ruins of distant systems. Survivors spoke of the warning. "You have one chance. Stop now, or we burn it all." They now understood it was never a threat. It was a promise. And as the Ashbringer disappeared into deep space, every leader, every soldier, every child in the galaxy knew, when humanity moves to ash, there is no second warning, only silence, asterisk.